All right, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be paper tuning bare shaft. So in my last video, if you guys saw, we cleaned up the bow, made it all pretty from competition season. I went ahead and installed the peep and the sight. You need it for the leveling to make sure your left-right is good and your level on your bubble, your sight is good when you paper tune. You still want to make sure you're focusing on your form. Once you get there, really put emphasis on it, but you will need to put a peep and a sight on in order to do the bare shaft tuning. Another thing about bare shaft tuning, bare shaft is just that. No fletchings, no nothing. Field point, you're going to want to use the same weight as you're going to use hunting. So in my case, I'm using 100 grain fixed blade, so 100 grain field tip. Also, your knock. On these RIP TKOs, there's a spine. Your knock needs to be in the position that you would normally fletch your arrows. So if that makes sense, like my spine is always facing directly up. So my knock, make sure that that spine is up. If it's just kind of wherever and you paper tune, then when you go to fletch it, if you always fletch it the same way, you're gonna have to do the whole process over again. So make sure your spine is in the position that you want it to be. Now, if you're using like a dynamic spine arrow, like a Maxima, it doesn't matter. But if you're using one that has the spine aligned on it, make sure that it's always facing up, always facing left, down, it doesn't matter, but make sure your knock is aligned to where you want it to be. So that way, when you go and fletch your arrow, it's gonna come out the same way. So what we're doing here is we're gonna shoot through this paper at close range and see how our bullet hole looks, and then we'll back up to about 6 yards or so, do it again and see if we need to move our rest up, down, left, right, you know, the whole enchilada. So let's hop right into this. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments before I get started, and we'll go from there. I know I was just about to fling an arrow, but another huge point, besides working on your form, is you want to make sure that your paper tune paper is at a correct height to where when you pull back, you can make sure that your arrow is level to the ground. So if my arm is the arrow, we'll just call it that, I want to make sure that I'm right here. If I'm here, if it's too high, you're going to get a tear low. If it's down here because you're not in the correct position, you're going to get a tear high. And then you're going to be chasing things that aren't really real. So if your paper tune setup is too low, sit in a chair, sit on the ground, take a knee, do something. But you need to make sure that you and the paper are exactly perpendicular with this arrow to get the most out of your paper tuning. So big thing there, make sure you do that. Because if you don't, you're just going to be chasing something that doesn't exist, and then you go to paper tune and it's going to be off and you're going to get frustrated. So make sure your arrow is perfectly perpendicular to this paper before you start. Big tip. All right, let's fling one, see what happens. That is what we just got. This right here. That right there. It can't get any better than that. That's perfect. There's no tears anywhere. Perfect bullet hole. Now, whether that's going to correlate to when we back up or not, we're about to find out. But if you're sitting there like you'd normally paper tune, a yard in front of this piece of paper or your target, and that's what you get out of it, you're definitely headed in the right direction. So let me grab this arrow, back you guys up, and we're gonna head at 6 yards and see if we get the kind of same result. Okay, same program. Making sure we're perpendicular to our paper, really focusing on our form. That's the most important thing right here, pulling through our shot, and let's see how we do here. All right, so see, here is exactly what can happen while we back up just a little bit. This was right in front of the paper. Looks great, right? But the arrow doesn't have enough time to show us what's really going on. So my arrow went in here and we're getting this massive tear right, which means we need to make a correction. So if our arrow is going in and tearing right, we need to move our rest to the left. If it's going in and it tears left, we need to move our rest to the right. So in this case, we are tearing right. I am going to move my rest to the left a couple of lines. And by lines, I mean, you're gonna have them on a QAD, a Whisker Biscuit, any one of them, but you got these tick marks up top here. Loosen this up and I'm gonna move my rest to the left, probably 2 lines, to see if we could get corrected back in that left direction, but correct direction, I guess I should say. Yes, I just kicked the camera. All right, so I made a pretty solid adjustment to the left. Let's back up to the 6-yard mark and give it another whirl. All right, so that was much better. You can see here, this was our first. I moved our rest over 2 lines and we cut it in a quarter. So I might need 1 more line, maybe 1.5 lines on this, but I'm gonna move that. Let's go back, fling another couple arrows, keep running the process. We got it. So at the end of the day, whenever you're moving your left and right, I'm at 6 yards. And this right here, that hole right there is from 6 yards away. So we started here, right next close to the paper. We're like, okay, we're good. Moved back. This was our next one. Made an adjustment, made another adjustment. Now we got a bullet hole at 6 yards with no fletchings. This is how you need to finish, or how you need to end up. And it just shows the importance of showing through paper at a farther distance, right? So now our arrow is still perfectly straight and correcting itself with no fletchings at 6 yards. That is best case scenario. Okay, perfect. So we have bear shaft tuned our hunting arrow that we're going to use. Our bow is taken care of. Our rest is perfect in the right spot for bear shaft. We got our sight and our peep in. That bow is tuned to this arrow, I would say perfectly. I mean, judging by that 6 yards away. The next step that we need to do is fletch this arrow, and all of our other ones, of course, but fletch this arrow and make sure we're still getting the same result on paper with fletchings as a perfect bullet hole paper tune from 6 yards away. And then once we've got there, we can go sight in our bow. And then once we've got there, we can do a walk back tuning, which I would argue is, I don't know about more important, but equally as important as doing paper. So paper is not the end all, walk back tuning is not the end all, but together, you bear shaft paper tune, you fletch paper tune, you're in a good spot, you feel good. Then the walk back tuning is a micro adjust to make sure at those longer yardages, you're still getting the flight out of this particular arrow you want. Once we're there with field points, then we throw on a broadhead and we do the process all over again. Not the paper tune process, but we do the process of, okay, 20 yards, are we hitting left, right, up, down? Every broadhead's gonna be different. And in my case, this year, I'm using these fixed blade Magnus Stingers. I used one last year on my Russian boar and also on a whitetail. Love the result I got, so I'm full all in using these for everything this year. and I'm gonna check them out. So in my case, I'm putting a fixed blade on, and essentially what that's gonna do for me is put another set of fletchings on my arrow. So there's a whole set of complications to go with that, and I'm gonna do a video on that, on how we're gonna fixed blade broadhead tune for these particular broadheads. And it's gonna be very similar to all other fixed blades that you need to do. So we're tackling that in the next video. You guys make sure to check it out. Thank you. Hopefully you learned something here. Bare shaft tuning goes for yourself. I'm sure everybody will let me know in the comments what I did wrong and how I'm the worst ever. So thank you for that. But to those of you that give support and always give support, you guys are the bomb. We just reached 500 subs. I cannot thank you guys enough. It's wild to think that we started so low and now we're getting this kind of following for people who actually enjoy the content. So thank you for sticking around. Always, if you have any questions, let me know. If you want to get your merch, your Beats Still Don't Suck, get them while they last. It's the link right down here on the screen that I'm showing you. It's also in the description below. So if you want to know what gear I'm using, that's also in the description below. Thank you guys again, and make sure, as always, you stay knocked up.